I'm creating a new tabletop RPG called The King's Council. I think it is interesting and it fills a niche that I have not found in the market of RPGs, and I've actually played a lot of different types of RPGs. And what this RPG is about, it is similar to something like a nation RP, as in you're role-playing the nation, but instead of role-playing a nation, you're role-playing one part of a council. So what does this mean is, if you think of the King's Council, or it's a small council in the Game of Thrones, you have like the Hand of the King, you have the Master of Coin, the Master of Ship, the High Commander, all that kind of stuff. The King's Council is everybody plays a member of the council. Now, this should naturally create conflict between players, but players are also trying to work together to keep like realm stability. What draws me to this system is that it does not need combat to be interesting, and that's why I like it, is that you can have managing a realm or a kingdom can be quite fun, because you don't have to be locked down into a tedious combat that can last for an hour to 2 hours of your entire roleplay session. The entire session can just be you talking and the players talking to each other, which I find is a lot more entertaining in the role-playing aspect, and that's what it lets me do more of. But also, I like the political intrigue that comes in a King's Council, and I don't think I've seen that many RPGs do it well. Now, there are other RPGs that do let you roleplay factions. Mine is a bit different. One of the things that I like in the way I'm doing it, at the moment it's still kind of play testing, and it's more of a free-form tabletop RPG, because I let the players create their system. So generally I have roughly 4 to 8 roles to be filled, and let's say it's for a kingdom. Each player is doing usually a vastly different system to another player. For example, the Master of Coin and the Master of Whispers and the High Commander have completely different roles. One is in charge of the military, one is in charge of economy, one is in charge of intrigue. Now, most of the roles are linked. In that instance, the Master of Coin directly funds the military. The Master of Whispers, he's the one that can, start a war, well, potentially have a war start or be avoided completely if he listens or finds out the right information or plants the right information. And yeah, so there's natural conflict, but there's also a sense of players working together. So there's a limited amount of resources. The players have to try and divide it between each other, and it's a team building exercise. Now, I like the idea of players fleshing out their own system and then coming to the GM and asking for like kind of approval for their system. So, for example, the Master of Whispers came to me and they asked, oh, can I have this spy structure where I have different types of handlers? And I was in agreement, and then I said, well, like, the amount of handlers you could have is dependent on how much funding you get, and how much funding is dependent on how well you talk to the Master of Coin. The same thing with the Master of Ship. The amount of ships they can get, the trade, that's a system that they can help create. So it's a world building exercise, because necessarily, for example, I have the High Priestess, or the religious person, that they will have a different religion. Generally in every different RP you'll probably have a different religion, or maybe you have the same religion, but how a religion works can vary a lot depending on religion. Now, I could make a standardized rules for each position, and maybe I will do that, but one of the funnest things is creating a system with each player, and what results in is a more fleshed out world. right? Rather than just having a kingdom, you have a kingdom that's run by people. And that makes it feel more real than just a kingdom. Okay, so how do I deal with the economy? Well, Google Sheets is your best friend. In fact, spreadsheets is a really underrated and fun way of playing RPGs. When you have large data sets and being able to manipulate them easily using just simple formulas can really add to the scale of a gameplay. Why is this important? It's because RPGs, in my opinion, are limited in scale. A lot of them are, not all of them, but they have to deploy very smart tricks to up the scale of their RPGs. So such things as, like, for example, in D&D, you can role play like 4 people in a group, but how would you roll 4,000 people and you're like 5 people amongst the war? Yes, there's some modules that do stuff, but it's quite tough. The other thing is, like, how would you like dictate the economy and all that? You can do dice rolls and that, but having an actual spreadsheet system really helps. And it adds to the fun factor when you don't have to do all the math. You just have the formulas doing it for you. Okay, so there's that. And I'm going to make a series on my playthrough of the King's Council. So I hope you'll stay tuned and enjoy it.